Okay,
Okay,
and I just,
Ron.
the webinar has started. Attendees are
great.
coming in.
Good. All right, welcome to the May 2021 meeting of the Clifton Town Council. Meetings being held electronically under the COVID-19 pandemic rules pursuant to the governor's announcement of an emergency, and we'll continue to hold them this way until the emergency is closed and the governor enables us to go back to in-person meetings, which were actually required by law until the pandemic occurred, and then the statute was changed to allow for electronic meetings. Anyway, let's get into it. First, I want to start. We were going to have a public hearing on the annual budget, but it did not get advertised, and advertising is a requirement. And in order to make sure that we comply with the requirements, unfortunately, we're going to have to push the public hearing back to next month. And that means we're going to have to schedule a special meeting of the council to approve it. There's some lag period after the public hearing as well. 7 days, is that what it is?
Has to be after 7 days. After at least 7 days after the.
All right, so we're not entirely in the order of the proceedings on the agenda, but it is timely for this. I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing on the 2021-2022 annual budget for the next town council meeting in June, which I believe is June 1st.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, and then we have to have a special meeting at least 7 days after to vote on the budget. So any time after that, we'll do it by Zoom. It won't be a long meeting, but we do have to have a meeting. So thoughts on when people would like to have that meeting? I know we're getting in June and people have things going on, so.
So the June meeting will be on the 1st, correct?
Correct.
So this
So it
could
needs-
be the following Wednesday or later,
Right, yeah, probably it'd be better to do it the 8th or later. Mhm.
the 8th
There's
or
full
later.
7 days. Mhm.
At least 7 days later, that's what I think. So,
Okay,
yeah. I mean, it could be, yeah, you could start on the 9th, Daryl, if you want, but any time after that, and it has to be before the end of the month.
I could do the 9th. I don't know what everybody else is feeling.
9th is good for me.
9th is fine.
Just do a 7:30 start, or you want to do it earlier?
No, just keep the normal time.
All right, 7:30 on the 9th.
So
Okay,
Charles,
make a
you need motion?
We'll make a motion to have a special meeting on Wednesday, June 9th, for purposes of review and approval of the 2021-2022 annual budget following the public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Okay, that takes care of that. And we were also going to have a public hearing on, I think, MOTA. And the underlying facts have shifted a bit. And the planning commission will talk about that. No need for me to get into it in advance. So on to town clerk report minutes.
We have two sets of minutes that were circulated. The minutes for the regular meeting held on April 6th, and also one set of minutes encompassing the work sessions for the budget on April 7th and 14th. And I did not receive any suggested revisions for either sets.
Motion
Okay,
to
I'll make a
approve
go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
motion to approve the minutes as submitted by the clerk for the previous two meetings.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? All right. Treasurer or town clerk, good.
Well,
Ready
you
to move on?
usually ask me if there's anything else, and there's just one other thing. And
Okay.
just bring it to your attention. No need to act on it tonight, but it looks like my laptop is nearing the end of its life. It's 6 years old. And what I would like to do is look for a replacement, and then at the next meeting, let you know the cost. It should be in the range of $600, just based on another laptop that we purchased in my household recently. I can still continue to back up the important documents onto the G Suite cloud, but I don't want to push this laptop until it's no longer completely reliable. So just something that I wanted to bring up.
Okay, and the laptop you have is one the town got?
Yeah, it's from the town. It's owned by the town. It's 6 years old, so it's definitely well past its prime.
I think we got this laptop for Sandy.
No, this is the one that we got just for me. I also
Oh,
have
okay.
Sandra's. It's very dead.
Okay.
I backed up all of Sandra's files onto a hard drive. I have all of my stuff backed up in multiple places too, but they just,
Does
they
that
don't-
mean you've been in your role 6 or more years?
yep.
Wow, okay,
I'm
Time
still
goes
new
by.
though, so
yes. No, time goes by fast. It's unbelievable. Okay, well, that's great. Yeah, look for something, come back with a specific proposal. Of all people, you and Marilyn need to have laptops that work well. Okay,
that's it for me.
let us know. Okay, Marilyn, treasurer.
Okay, for the treasurer's report, this is for the month ended April 30th. Our funds in our bank are $1,361,889.74. The update for the COVID funding that we have, there weren't really much to report as far as actual expenditures for this month. But in our last Fairfax County meeting, it was being discussed that Fairfax is going to be looking into whether they would rather extend our subrecipient agreement, which would allow the town to be able to utilize the rest of the CARES Act money for longer, rather than having us pay it back. So they're going to be looking into that, and then they'll get back to us. If they would like to do that, it would just mean that we could utilize the funds for longer and possibly find some ways of using them other than just paying our time that we're spending overseeing the program. That's the update on that. The meeting for this week has been canceled, and then there will be a meeting scheduled for next week. It looks like for the towns of our size and also Herndon, the money that would be coming for under the American Rescue Plan will be coming directly from the state. So we don't have that registration requirement that we had when we were getting the funds last year. So it will be a little bit different. I know last month I was talking about us being aware of the timing of when this email would come through saying, oh, we have to go online and register, but it will be a different process. It will probably just show up in our regular account as an ACH deposit because we're already set up with the state to receive money from them. So it won't be it'll be a little bit different. So that's the update there. We're talking about possibly having a towns group that would be for the smaller towns and not necessarily having everything being run by Fairfax County for this next grant. So those are some other ideas that were talked about there. For the items that are highlighted on the treasurer's report, For other income, we've received both checks from Geico for the repair and replacement of the sign and the grounds at the Triangle. One check was $6,700 that we received last month, and then we received the $4,350 this month from Geico. We also received the $935 from VRSA for the insurance claim to repair the Triangle. And the historic sign on the railroad siding. So those are the updates in the other income. And we may want, if you all think it's a good idea, we could possibly set up a different segregated account other than other income, where we can put through insurance claims of this nature. Otherwise, we just identify whatever's in other income. Other highlights are under the taxes and permits. I did put in a supplemental report to show the ARB fees that have come in. They total $320. Other than the other normal smaller amounts, we have our sales tax revenues for February that came in this month for $2,580. And we have use permit fees that came in at, we had $75 come in for a use permit, and then we also had a refund of $175 back to Virginia Mercantile for having an overpayment. So that's been processed. We received another $850 in April for BPOL taxes. And under contractual expenses, we had our normal community hall electric bill is now back up to $633. It was $577 last month. So that shows it's being more utilized again for the renters there. There was a purchase for flags that Reagan handled, and that was $491 that was processed. And I had posted that to community hall flags, but it's actually going to be reclassed to beautification along with the line item with the banners because they're actually outdoor flags that Reagan got. Okay. We paid $245 for the removal of the historic signpost that was approved by the railroad siding, and $1,460 for grounds maintenance and mowing during the month. So those are the main highlights to the transactions that were reflected in the financials. Let's see here. We already talked about the public hearing for the budget having to be moved back. The connection has been apparently having problems actually getting their email from us, at least from me. Today, I was talking with her for quite a while on the phone. I had to email it actually to her home email address to make sure that she received it. But she did confirm that she had it and that she will place the ad for the public hearing in the paper on Thursday, just so you understand that. So that is confirmed. And we've already set the other meeting, so that takes care of that part of it. Reagan and I had talked today, and we were talking about the various contracts that we've had approved at the town council, and whether they needed to have the roll call vote, because the contracts that were approved didn't have an actual roll call vote. They were approved as contracts in the minutes, but there wasn't actually a roll call vote. So there are a few that we wanted to consider. So they're listed in the report. One is not probably a roll call requirement, but Bill, you wanted to review with the town council, the reimbursement for Mark for the environmentalist items that he wanted to be reimbursed for. That's $375.
That's on the agenda. later.
Oh,
there.
okay. So that can be handled later then, okay.
But the idea here is, and this surprised me, that the two contracts for about $10,000 to redo the sign and the triangle apparently was not approved by a roll call vote, which I was surprised, but the minutes don't reflect that those were approved by roll call vote, so they need to be.
Yeah, I think as a general rule, anytime we approve an expenditure more than $500, the roll call vote needs to happen at the point that we make the obligation. I think in a lot of cases we've done it after the fact when the payment is due, but at that point it's too late. So I think that I would, to my colleagues on the on the council, I would just recommend that anytime we're bringing forward a financial obligation to the town, that we get a roll call vote at the point that we make the obligation. And then the payment should be automatic once we have a council member that confirms that whatever product or service was, satisfactorily delivered or rendered, and then we can just, give Marilyn the heads up that all is okay to pay the bill. But the obligation is really the item that we need to be approving by roll call vote.
So
And
how
my
do we do
understanding was we were doing that. So I'm surprised that we would have agreed to enter into $10,000 of contracts.
Yeah.
And somehow it didn't have a roll call. I almost wonder if it did, and it just didn't get recorded that way. Because
It might have been the fact that 90%
not
of it was
do that.
recoverable under insurance bill,
that wouldn't make any difference.
but it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Yeah,
So can we just cure this now by having these two roll call votes?
exactly.
Yes.
Let's just have these two roll call votes.
Okay.
So the first is for payment of $4,350 to LCS Property Services for the Clifton Triangle Gateway planter repair. The contract was reviewed and approved at the April meeting, and Reagan has authorized that the completion of the contract is satisfactory and complete.
Make a motion to approve as the treasurer has stated.
Second,
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Holloway, aye.
Efros, aye.
McDonald, aye.
Oh, aye.
Line I.
Green eye.
All right, what's the second one?
The second one is to authorize payment of the $7,390 to Design Techniques per the town's signed contract that was approved at the April meeting. The payment will not be made until the written authorization is received from Reagan that the work has been completed satisfactorily, but it's getting the authorization to do the actual payment in accordance with the contract.
Make a motion to approve the item that the treasurer just stated. That item is in fabrication as we speak, and will be installed. Should be sometime this month, but make a motion to approve it as she stated.
Second,
All right, do a roll call vote. Holloway, aye.
Efros, aye.
McDonald, aye.
Oh, aye.
Line I.
It's green eye.
All right, what else?
The last one was related to, and I don't have this one written into my report, but Reagan and I were talking about it after I'd sent the report out. The authorization for paying for the historic sign replacement when that arrives for the Civil War sign that's been ordered apparently.
Yeah, I guess that's another item. Let's make sure that we had a roll call vote on that. The cost was 1935 or 1945. 1945, I believe it was. Jumping ahead a bit on the agenda, I confirmed that we are eligible for insurance coverage for the damage to the historical marker through our VRSA policy. with $1,000 deductible. So that's the good news, that we have already received a check for the $945 that I think Marilyn previously mentioned.
Mhm.
But we will have to pay for the replacement sign at the point that we receive an invoice from the manufacturer. So we'd like to pre-approve that so that we don't have an excessive lag in getting a check out to that manufacturer when the invoice comes in. We expect delivery of that sign sometime this summer or late summer. So I would make a motion to the council to approve payment of the invoice for the replacement sign in the amount of $1,945 when it arrives.
Second,
All right, roll call vote, Holloway, aye.
F. Ross, I.
McDonald, aye.
Oh, aye.
Klein, aye.
Green eye.
All right,
And do we also need to speak about the funds that we'll use to pay to install that sign at this point?
Those were previously approved and they are less than $500. I think the quote was $290.
I see.
And that's going to be sometime in the future. So I think we're okay on that today.
So that's all that completes the treasurer's report.
Motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Second,
all right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Citizens' remarks, we didn't have any. We usually include communications here. I had two communications I want to alert the council to. I've sent you emails about this. One is we were alerted in the last couple days that FEMA apparently is preparing yet another flood map for the Northern Virginia, but including the town of Clifton. And they may or may not have sent us a draft. We're still looking into that. And there will be a process to create a new flood map that'll show where waterways are and elevations and other things that people are sensitive to. So we just got the information. Kathy's speaking with the town engineer. We're trying to get our arms around what it is, what they've done, and what they're going to do. The obvious issue is, how does it compare to the current one? If it's the same, we don't care. If it's no worse than, we don't care. If it adds a whole bunch of new wetlands or Lord knows what in, we do care. So we're trying to get our arms around what it is and whether there's been any change to it. That's all we know at this point, but I wanted to let you know right away that that's going on, and Kathy and Amanda are working as appropriate on that. Okay, any questions about that? Okay. Second thing, I sent a letter around. We got a letter from something called Northern Virginia Regional Commission on doing an updated regional water supply plan that they would like the town to contribute money to. The town's requested contribution is unconscionably inequitable compared to other jurisdictions. Doesn't mean we wouldn't pay it, but this plan, I looked into it a little bit, is something the state required back in 2005, maybe. And in 2007, the town apparently agreed to participate in a regional water supply plan. This is supply of water and whether there's enough, and water treatment plants and this sort of thing. Under the new state law at the time, all counties, cities, and towns are required to provide some sort of water supply plan, and you can do it by yourself as a jurisdiction or as part of a regional study. A regional study was done. Clifton was included in it. It was completed in 2011, approved in 2013. And under state law, it has to be updated every 10 years. So they're looking at updating this plan. Fair enough. However, the proposed allocation of costs has, I think, Fairfax County, and the number I gave you guys was 1/3 because it was so high they were spreading it out over 3 years. The contribution level from Fairfax County for this study is $41,000, and they'd like Clifton to put in $4,000. So you can see that the per capita, if Fairfax was paying the same as us per capita, instead of 41,000, their charge would be $15 million. I don't really know who agreed to this or how they came up with this. The other thing is we're a quarter of a square mile. We have no water treatment plant. We have no public water. We have no changes. There's really nothing to look at here. Nonetheless, this is a thing we're required to do. I put in Bob Lazaro is running this NVRC now. I don't know if you guys know Bob. He's the mayor of Purcellville for a long time. Then he floated around in different sort of regional political positions. I put an email into him just asking about the very unreasonable allocation, because the charge to Clifton to participate in this study would be $4,150. Again, relative to $40,000 for all of Fairfax County. So we can not participate and do it ourselves. We can not participate and see what happens.
What would the cost be to do it ourselves?
I don't know.
I'd be interested, Bill, in what technical assessment was done under the original study, specific to the town. Whether somebody came out and monitored groundwater levels, or groundwater quality, or if it was just completely, absent of any data for the town itself. Can we get a copy of whatever was produced the first time around?
We should be able to.
I'm sure it's probably out there online someplace. I haven't had a chance to check, but
probably. I mean, I can also ask him if he can send us the previous plan so we can see what it is that's being proposed. What sort of thing?
I think that would inform our response if they were very, very light on our geographic area in terms of analysis and findings. It would.
Well, I think one of the good things is, since this plan was done the first time, this is supposed to be an update to the plan. So the question then is, what does the plan say about Clifton? And what would the update could be? There have been no changes.
Right.
And that taked be our report.
Yeah, I think Reagan's point is well taken, although you used the term groundwater, Reagan. Didn't the mayor say this is water supply, which we don't have? And
we only have groundwater. So unless somebody is interested in the groundwater and water table assets within the town, it's a bit of a moot point for us.
Yeah.
Agreed. They're supposedly looking at ensuring the adequate and safe drinking water is available to all citizens, promoting beneficial uses of water resources, including resources other than drinking, and incentives for alternative water resources, including desalinization, which we're probably not planning on doing here. So you can see it's just massive overkill for our purposes. And they're supposed to be doing the study. It's supposed to take them 2 to 3 years to complete the study or something. The last time it took 4 years to do the study for this commission.
How many member organizations are there?
Uh, 20, about 28. It's like all of Northern Virginia, I mean, out to like Middleburg. It's probably 5 million people or something. Yeah, so I can ask about to get a copy of the one that was done before to get a sense of what they're proposing to do, and we can go from there. You know, there's some level, I asked him because it really is really unreasonable for us on a per capita basis. It's about $15 a person to do. There's some level at which it would be de minimis and we'd contribute and get on with life, but for $4,100 is actually a pretty significant amount of money for us.
I'm just not confident we could get it done and meet the requirements for less than that.
Oh, I
All right.
agree.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, that's option 4. Is
It doesn't take much to type in the term not applicable.
I don't think that can be our response to this requirement, this legal requirement to have a water plan.
Right. You'd have to say that we've reviewed the prior plan and there have been no changes with respect to the town of Clifton, or the changes with respect to the town of Clifton are A, B, C, and D. And to Daryl's point, you'd probably have to get somebody like the town engineer to look at it and go, yes, that's correct. In my expert opinion, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll see if I can get the prior one. We certainly should be able to because apparently we paid for it. And it should be out there somewhere as well. In fact, maybe it's even on their website. And then I've got a request in because if they can make it, like if it was done on a per capita basis, I don't think we'd have any problem doing it. It would be like $400, not $4,000. So maybe they'll come back because we certainly didn't agree for this update to this allocation. Okay, on to the next. Right? There it is. There we go. It takes us to the committee's planning commission.
Okay, the first item we're going to do is Core Outdoor Living. They submitted a new use permit application for changed space at 12642 Chapel Road. And it's for an office use at commercially zoned premises for a home improvement business. Hours Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and uses of office numbers 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and for a total of 642 square feet and the allocation of 3 parking spaces. And the Planning Commission recommended that the application be approved.
Okay, any questions, anyone? Okay, I will make a motion to approve the use permit as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I
Opposed, abstentions? Okay,
The next is a public hearing have been scheduled both for the Town Council and the Planning Commission for a special use permit for the restaurant use for Motier at 12644 Chapel Road. And that was for suites A and B. And there were going to be a total of 14 seats in those suites. We ended up canceling the hearing based on information from the owner and the landlord that the business, the restaurant business, was planning to further expand within the next 30 to 60 days into suites C and D at the above location. Since this would substantially increase the number of seats being requested as well as part of it was going to be used either for takeout or something like it wasn't 100% clear because we didn't discuss it, but perhaps some sort of selling products, some sort of restaurant food products. So we put this matter off pending further information from the owner and the landlord concerning when the new lease would be signed, exactly what space would be used, what amounts of seats, what number of seats was going to be proposed for the restaurant business, the number of employees that would be, as well as was there going to be takeout, what space would be used for the retail function or for takeout. Presently, Motier, as of March 2020, has an existing use permit, a special use permit for a restaurant space allowing 14 seats as well as takeout. So Mr. Motier indicated, at least for the next 2-3 months until this new space became operational, he'd be operating within the issued use permit. So as soon as we find out when the new space is operational and we get an updated application from them, then the Planning Commission can review it and schedule a new public hearing.
Okay.
Next matter is last year, I don't remember the date, but I think it was April 2020. Amanda had been going through a number of our preliminary use permits to make sure they had not extended beyond the 2-year statutory period before a final use permit was issued. And one of those reviewed was the application of Reed Hall and Amanda Jones on Clifton Creek Drive, who have an outstanding preliminary use permit and plan of development for over 10,000 square feet of outdoor development, including pool deck, landscaping, and other items, which had been issued in 2018 and due to expire in 2020. It was extended until May 31, 2021. In getting back to us concerning the various issues that are still open in inspections and certificates that have to be provided in order to review recommending a final use permit for this construction. They did submit a new plan, a revised plan of development for a different deck system. So that was reviewed by the town engineer. Comments were given to the applicants, and by next meeting time, they should have a firm idea of where they stand on, obviously, probably requesting both the Planning Commission and Town Council for an extension in order to make the changes to the deck that they're proposed. Any questions? Next matter is Clifton Cafe had applied for a special use permit for expanded restaurant space. I don't know that we need to take the time and go over the whole history of it. There's been a lot of back and forth. As you may recall, the special use permit was issued in April of 2019 for the Clifton Cafe upon the exact same terms and conditions that the cafe under the ownership of the Tenga Stalls had, except that there would be a new owner, Michelle Trainer. In November of 2020, the cafe applied for a new special use permit with expanded seating, taking it up from 56 to 85 seats and expanded parking. At the December meeting, the Planning Commission asked for more information, an engineered parking plan, and some additional information. In March, the cafe provided the information with a new parking spaces planned, an engineered drawn to scale parking plan, etc. That was reviewed by the town engineer. Comments were given back to the applicant. And April, I think 20th or so, the applicant decided not to go with that parking plan, to do a more limited expansion of seats and just use the present parking on the premises. So the Planning Commission said the parking plan that was given to us in March will need to be revised to meet the criteria for the spaces they're planning to actually have, as well as various other issues that are raised by statute But we did vote to hold a public hearing at our next meeting if that information could be provided by May 10th, which, as I understand, as we all understood for Amanda, is the deadline that we need to get the advertisement in. So I think it would be helpful, assuming it goes forward, for if the town council would also vote, if they wish to, at their June meeting. I gather you're also doing the budget then, but if it works for the town council to do a possible special use permit hearing in June on the cafe. Obviously, if the information for whatever reason can't be forthcoming by May 10th, then no advertisement will be put in and there won't be a public hearing held. But if there is, no doubt the applicant would prefer to move things along and get to the public hearing with the town council as soon as possible.
This has to be advertised like the budget and the other things where we have to pay to put it in the newspaper. Is that right?
Right, that's right.
And
Actually, under the terms of the ordinance, the applicant pays for the advertising.
and are they happy to pay for it? And if we don't do it, they're still happy to pay for it?
Well, we weren't going to advertise if the information wasn't in, so they wouldn't be paying for something that didn't occur. If they submit the necessary information and we actually have the application parking plan and can go forward with the public hearing, then a public hearing will be held.
The concern I have process-wise is we, the council, won't know anything about it other than whatever gets sent out before the public hearing ourselves, much less the public. But the first time we'll really hear about whatever it is that's finally being proposed will be after the public hearing in the meeting.
Well, no, I mean, we would do the same thing.
I just
Michelle-
want to let you know that Michelle has been promoted and allowed to speak. She's on her phone, but she is permitted to speak.
But
Okay.
we would,
If you want
we
me
would-
to. If-
we would send out the same information that we did for Motier. Remember, you had said 2 weeks before the planning commission public hearing, you wanted an email sent out to everyone. It would be the same thing. We're talking about May 10th, and our public hearing, I think, would be May 27th. And the town council public hearing would be whatever the first week is in June. So we would send out the same information at least 2 weeks, if not more. And the information would be posted on the website for those who want to see it, and people would be notified of it. So I would think if we followed the same procedure that we did in Motier, that would not be a problem. Motier turned into a problem, and they do understand they have to pay for the ads, which took place in no public hearing, because at the last minute, less than a week before the meeting, they decided they were going to for sure expand the space, but they hadn't yet signed a lease. And that certainly can happen. Michelle can speak to that, but I mean, we're not going to advertise and charge the applicant unless we have the information.
But
Yeah,
so,
I did.
but I'd like, and we can hear from Michelle, but here's the idea with the council. A lot of these things we do, what creative, whatever it was, a wonderful place. I mean that straightforward, right? They moved from this place to that place. Special use permit, new restaurant expansion is a major undertaking. So in my mind, maybe it's just me, but in my mind, I would imagine the planning commission would work through it and has spent time working through this. And then at some time, the planning commission would come to the council and say, here is what it is. Here's what's being proposed. Here are the issues and all that. And we would talk about it as well. And we would now have a sense of what it is. And then now, being aware of what it is, we would schedule a public hearing and the public would tell us what they think. And then we would vote on it. As opposed to, we haven't had any discussion about it. There's a public hearing. Then after that, we have a discussion and talk about it. And then we vote on it right away. It's not in my mind how I would see the process working. I know it means it would go faster. It would be a month quicker, assuming nothing comes up like it did with Motier. And it doesn't seem like the right process for a special use permit to me, but it perhaps could be.
Yeah, the only thing I would just suggest, just so that there's no confusion as to what we're doing, we're planning on staying within the same, I don't know, schematic we have today. It's the same footprint, it's the same hours, it's the same food, it's the same everything. The only thing that we're looking to do is take the 4 parking spaces that were previously the horse hippies, allocating them to the cafe that would allow us to have 1 additional parking space for 2 incremental employees, and then 3 of those parking spaces for additional guests. We're not looking to expand the footprint of the parking lot or anything. We're going to improve the parking lot. It needs to be repaired. It's, got water damage from over the years. So we're just looking to clean up the parking lot and be able to spread our seating out. If you've ever been in the cafe, it's very cramped. So we will add additional seats, but we just want to be able to have a little bit more spacing between the seats, that kind of thing, clean it up inside, et cetera. So that's the only thing we're doing here.
Would it use?
We're not expanding the.
Would the front part of the building be used where Horse Hippie was?
Yeah, that's right. So we would have the Weaver House would only have 1 occupant, 1 tenant, which would be the cafe, and those rooms being used for dining.
And
with
there'd
12
be more.
additional seats total.
How many seats?
Well, the 3 parking spaces from the Horse Hippie, it would be 12 additional seats. And then there was, when I looked at our current use permit, one of the 17 parking spots that were allocated to the cafe are not, it never got calculated into the number of seats. It was calculated as 56 seats, but it was missing a parking space. So I'm just asking for that to be amended. So in total, if we correct some math errors or what have you, it would be 18 additional guests and then 2 additional employees.
So it's a total of 74 seats. Is that right? Is that right, Michelle?
I believe so, Kathy. I don't have it in front of me, but I think that's right.
Okay. Anyway, the latest application was 74 seats and 10 employees.
Yeah, parking lot stays the same, building stays, the same. No more than 30 seats outside, which was what was, previously on the use permit. We're not asking for more outside. We're not asking to change the usage of Ford Lane. That was supposed to be just for employee parking. We'll keep that the same way.
I mean, there is some additional stuff, obviously. There's work being done on dealing with loading. There's work being done on the dumpster as well. But I mean, that's going to be ongoing no matter what the situation is. So
yeah, I mean, Kathy had asked we put some doors on the dumpster, which we'll do that. We'll put doors in the dumpster. It sounded like that.
Okay, that was helpful. I don't know. Is there a sense of the council? We'll just set a public hearing and figure it out next month.
I would do that, Bill. I understand your overall concern about the order of these things, but we've had such a strange time over the last year that I think helping the businesses, so long as the people who are watching this issue, and I think Kathy and her committee does that, if they raise a red flag, then we have to be concerned. But for right now, I think we should expedite the process, even though I agree with you that in normal times, this would not be the right process.
Fair enough. Okay.
Amanda, can I just ask, when we do the ad, I assume it's one ad that advertises the planning commission and the town council meeting, or do you do 2 separate ads?
One ad when possible. Yes.
So we're not paying for 2 separate ads.
Right.
That's good.
And the cost should be about $350
total.
Okay, I'll make a motion to authorize a public hearing on the special use permit for the Clifton Cafe at the June 2021 Clifton Town Council meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay,
And Bill, I am happy to, since this will all be presumably all the details hopefully will be pretty hashed out and we'll have a pretty good idea if there's any issues, red flags, et cetera, at the time of the planning commission meeting. And I'm happy to, even the day after the planning commission meeting, send an email summary to everybody on the town council. So you all can have a whole week to review it, to look at it, think about it, et cetera. And it won't be that much of a surprise to anybody.
What, one clarification, didn't we say that the budget hearing was not going to be the same day as the regular town council meeting? It had to be a different date. Are we doing these together on that date?
yeah, the public hearing will be at the town council meeting. And then we will have a special meeting later just to approve the budget on the 9th.
I see, but that doesn't affect the notice.
The notice will go out in time. Marilyn was saying that she's already gotten the motion or the notice moving.
Okay.
For June 1.
All right.
Okay, so I think Steve hit the nail right on the head. This whole process strikes me as a little irregular, a lot of scrambling going on. But I see that what's being done is the planning commission in particular is really bending over backwards to try to expedite things and try to move things forward because of what's going on with the pandemic and everything else. So as Steve said, given all of that, I can see why we would go along with it. In ordinary course, I think we would have a more protracted, orderly process. But here I can see that everybody's doing everything they can to bend over and try and bend over backwards and move it forward. Okay, anything else? Kathy?
No,
Anything else?
that's it for the planning commission report. Thank you.
Okay. Amanda, zoning administrator report.
I have a report for you to update on the residential construction project at 7184 Clifton Road. The property was in April purchased by someone, and we have that person's name and contact info. And we don't know if they are aware of the property's status as far as it does not have an occupancy permit from the county, so nobody should be living in that house right now. It's not safe, it's not permitted. And certainly there has not been any final permitting from the town. I have reached out to staff at Fairfax County to find out what sort of procedure they have in place to notify new owners of a property when there is work that needs to be done, and when they can properly inhabit the place. I haven't heard back yet, but that's sort of to be expected right now. Everything has been really slowed down due to COVID. In the meantime, I have drafted the beginnings of a letter to send to the new property owners, and I've sent the draft to Bill and Royce and Kathy, asking for input on how to improve it. I've gotten some very helpful feedback from Kathy so far. Basically, I mean, it's not the most cheerful welcome to the town letter that you could receive, but it's just to let the person know that there are requirements that are outstanding on the property as far as applying for and obtaining a final use permit from the town of Clifton, which is contingent on getting approvals and passing final inspections from the county And it is also contingent upon coming back to the ARB and having all of that approved. And then and only then will they receive the occupancy from the county. So I haven't sent that letter out yet. In my draft, I just arbitrarily put in there a deadline of 60 days. So I'd be curious to hear the council's feedback on if you think that's a reasonable amount of time. Not for the applicant to just simply reply and acknowledge receipt of the letter, but to actually submit the documentation that is required and is well overdue.
Yeah, I had the privilege of meeting them as they were walking down the street, and it was my impression that that they had no idea that this was going on. I didn't specifically speak about any of the history from the house, but I think that they found themselves with some surprises, and they were just trying to piece all of the things together. So I think I actually am curious about what Royce would say as far as doing the work. If 60 days is reasonable, that they might be able to pull it all off with that time frame.
That's definitely, one issue is the time frame that we want to give them. I'm fine with whatever the council wants to give them, but we do want to get the letter out in a hurry to them in case they need to have some recourse if they didn't know that they were purchasing. I think it's kind of a distressed property in a way. We want to make sure that they can exercise whatever rights they have as new buyers, to let them know, Anybody else?
I agree 100% with Amanda. I mean, I think we need to get the letter out as soon as possible, like within the next 2-3 days. Amanda's right. If there's going to be any recourse against the seller of the property, the new owners need to be notified as soon as possible. And the reality is, whoever owns the property is responsible for doing the work and getting the necessary permits. And we can't leave it hang out there without this work being done, without the permits being done, because we have to close out our own systems with the preliminary use permit. It's one of the things we get inspected on every year by DEQ, and we can't leave it hanging out there. So it's unfortunate. Lord knows how it happened, but it did happen. But I think waiting only makes it worse. Obviously, they can come in, ask for an extension or whatever, but we need to know we have their attention, and that hopefully, they can be working on making some progress on this.
I can at least say that when I looked in the county database the other day, I saw that there has been some progress made on the site plan revision side of things. The county on April 26th approved the application for a site plan revision. So that's a really important step for their final use permit from the town, and for just going ahead with getting an approval on their retaining walls. So I don't know who submitted or got that approved, really, because it happened on the 26th. I think they purchased the property on the 12th. So, but it sounds like progress is being made.
But we need that here, because when we issue the final use permit, then the county can issue the occupancy permit.
There's a couple of things I'd like to bring up. One is with relation to the approved drawings that Amanda found out. There's some revised site plan that's been approved. When we last met with the previous owner, he said that he had submitted revisions, and he tried to describe what he was revising. And what I asked for was whatever was approved, we wanted a copy of his approval from the county. So that would be in the form of a drawing with some indication on the drawing that this was the approved drawing. Because we were running out of, we weren't sure whether what he was submitting was what we were asking for, because we never saw anything that he was submitting. It was only going through the county, and it hadn't even gone through the town. So that was one thing. The other thing, I read Amanda's letter, and while I agree they should be notified immediately, not only so that they know what they have, but also, like was expressed, if there's recourse with the sale. Years and years ago, there was a family by the name of the Pitkins, who lived on the corner of Water and Chapel Road. And because they had a young child and a dog got hit on Chapel Road, they put up a chain link fence. They didn't ask for permission, and when they were told they needed permission, they didn't really care. They were trying to protect their young child. So when that house sold, the McNamara's moved in, and on the day that they moved in, one of the council members at the time strolled up to the front door and said, "You got to remove that fence." And it stuck with that owner. That owner lived here for 30 some years. As you know, welcome to Clifton. Oh, by the way, you're in violation. So I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I think it should be a letter that explains the issues on the property, ask them to acknowledge that they understand that they are responsible, and then try to figure out a time frame, because the time frame, 60 days, if they need any additional approvals, they'll use 60 days just trying to get that, not even doing the work. Doing the work is, as far as the issues that the ARB listed, could be done relatively quick with a concerted effort. And that was something that never happened with the previous owner. There's money involved to do that work. And the biggest issue that they have is probably shown on the revised grading plan, has to do with the retaining wall along the driveway and also one in the backyard. What is that wall? How high is that wall? Is there a guardrail required on that wall? There's a lot of questions that come with that. That's why before anything could really be given a deadline, there has to be some sort of scope of work that's identified in order to know how long it would actually take. So I guess what I'm saying is it's pretty complicated. A, they should be given notice immediately. And that notice should say that they are responsible if they are the new owner. And then on a softer side, saying, you know, how fast can you get this work done? Or what are your intentions? Please give us a time frame. Please give us a list of what you intend to do. And that might take, well, it'll at least take the next town council meeting. So there goes 30 days. So I'm not sure 60 days is reasonable.
Well, why don't we just ask them, not give them a deadline to do the work, but simply ask if they can respond to us within a certain period of time, and also point out we'd be happy to meet with them and go through what the issues are, which we certainly can do. Certainly can have a Zoom meeting with them and go through what the issues are, right, Royce?
Yes, I think that's the right approach. Yeah.
And that may be a friendlier approach, but at the same time, it will be clear they are responsible and they're being notified, but maybe not just say, hey, fix everything in 60 days, but please get back to us in the next 30 days, how you would like to proceed. And we, by the way, we'd be happy to set up a meeting with the, you know, Planning Commission, Zoning Administrator, ARB, to help you understand what the issues are.
I think that's the right approach.
That's exactly what I've been looking for, because when I looked at the draft of my letter, I thought, wow, that's not very nice, really. So if we could soften it up and make it more cooperative, that would be great. I can
Great.
redo that draft and send it out again.
Yeah, we want to encourage their engagement in this process and not drive them down the path the previous owner was on.
But to do it as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And I am concerned that their mailing address is the property. I hope that they are not living in the property. Lynn, do you know? Are they living there?
I learned that they were in the process of getting married and moving from West Coast, California and Arizona. So they had a very busy time, but I think some of the surprises that were noted had to do with just, different things working in the house and trying to make it livable. So
Is there another address besides the address of the house? Does anyone know? Amanda?
That's
what did
their
you say?
in the tax map database, which is the legal address that we're supposed to use when we send out official letters.
Right.
Their
Does
address is listed as 7184 Clifton
Okay.
Road. So
anybody have a phone number for these folks or an email address? Can anyone get a phone number or an email address?
sure, I'm happy to go up there and see if they're there.
Please do.
Yeah, there's a mailbox. They put a mailbox there on the driveway. It exists.
Right. So the idea is it's great to send a letter. We need to send a letter. That's awesome. But we're actually trying to get a hold of these people
Yeah.
and trying to let them know
Email.
what's going on.
Mhm.
So at the very least, if we send them a letter, we want to say, hey, there's a letter coming to you. What's it about? Here's what it's about. So,
And that we're trying to be helpful.
yeah. And
From
this,
the government, we're here to help.
and this must be resolved. This must be resolved. And it's, unfortunate that it's one of the things you have to deal with, but we want to help you resolve it. So Lynn, if you can figure out a way to get anything, a phone number, an email address, either one, then we can pull the string on that, because we want to talk to them and we want to engage them in a discussion. In the letter, and it sounds like, Amanda, you have a sense of what Royce and Kathy have conveyed, and you'll revise it and they'll look at it and, so on. And I'm happy to look at it once it's in a place where people think it looks like it ought to look, close to what it ought to look like. I would ask that the letter be somewhat transparent in what it is that needs to be done. Like, here's what's not, there are lots of problems and your COA doesn't match your construction. I wouldn't know what to do with that. But if somebody said, you have a preliminary use permit and the work that was done doesn't match it, therefore we can't issue a final use permit and you can't get an occupancy permit. And the following 6 things don't conform. Number 1, number 2, number 3. So if I read that letter, I go, oh, now I know what they're talking about. That would be really, really helpful. And it can have the other stuff in it, but I'd want something checklist oriented so they know exactly what they're up against.
got it.
Okay. All right. Well, agreed that sooner is better. And it sounds like it's not the only issue they're dealing with. If we can add this checklist of things to the list of things they have to deal with, we can help them get off on the right foot. Okay. Anything else from zoning administrator?
That's it.
Okay. ARB.
The ARB met last Thursday to review several applications. One of the things that we talked about was a request from a homeowner up on Clifton Heights who's replacing his asphalt shingle roof. And the discussion had to do with, he's got a 1-story porch roof at his entry across the front of the house. and he wanted to put a metal roof on that, whereas the main roof would be asphalt shingles. I wanted to discuss it with the ARB because years ago, there was discussion at the ARB that porch roofs needed to match main roofs. My opinion was that if we can get metal, especially down at a more pedestrian level, it actually is more appropriate in the town to see metal roof wherever we can. So I was asking the board what their opinions were, and we agreed, the majority agreed, that in that case, being one of the upper level lots, not down in the village, that the metal roof on his porch and homes like that would be appropriate. There are a couple examples of that even down in the main area of Clifton. The Presbyterian Church has a metal roof on their porch roof, but an asphalt shingle roof. And then the house on the corner of Main Street and Clifton Road also has asphalt shingles on the main roof, but a metal roof down below. Those are two that I know of. There may be others, but we, as a board, decided that if you want to put metal on the porch roof, even though the main roof is asphalt, that would be appropriate. We reviewed the signage for several businesses in town. Market Financial at 12644 Chapel Road, known as the Clifton House, is installing a sign in the courtyard area. So it's not visible from Chapel Road unless you're on the angle looking into the courtyard. His sign met all the requirements per code, and we approved his signage and location of where it was to be installed. Virginia Mercantile, we approved their sign. It will be a bracket sign that's hung over the window on the side elevation. Clifton Cafe had a new sign in the gable, the front gable. So we reviewed that sign, the existing sign that was from the previous owner of the Clifton Cafe, and also a sandwich board. We approved all of those signs and expressed the requirements with the sandwich board not to be on the sidewalk and to be taken in at night at all times. So that was approved. We reviewed an application for another business at the Clifton House, 12644 Chapel Road, for the hair garage. Their sign had been installed without approval. So we discussed that, and the sign itself, the way that it was installed, there was some objection to that, but the owner was willing to rethink that signage and reapply. So we tabled that application. We reviewed Reed Hall at 12725 Clifton Heights. He's got an additional deck. It's a small deck that's adjoined basically with the existing deck that's there. He's got a pool and saunas and things like that. So this deck was relatively small. It was the same materials as the approved deck. The ARB approved his deck as submitted. And we reviewed an application for an addition that's on Redbird Ridge Road. Most people don't know where that is. If you go down Clifton Creek and you make a right, you'll see signage that says 2 Wesley Tyler Drive. It's known as Choo Choo Hill to some of us. You go up that road and you make a right, and it goes back into those 3 or 4 homes that are on that road. That addition, I was supposed to have a meeting with the homeowner before the meeting with the ARB. And there's question as to whether part of the addition will be included with the application. So we reviewed the application to get the general feel of the ARB, but we tabled any approvals or final votes. So that was the agenda for the ARB.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything for streetscape this month?
No, nothing new, Bill.
Okay. A couple notes. I want to thank the community and the Committee on the Environment for hosting the town cleanup day, which was on Sunday, a couple days ago. And there was also a cleanup of the Clifton Cemetery, all done by volunteers. So want to thank the community for taking care of that and the spirit of volunteerism that we have in town and keeping the town looking good. And in fact, notwithstanding the fact that we've got this emergency, blah, 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 the town actually looks really good right now. So great. Thank you, community members. On anything else on that, Reagan?
No, thanks, Bill. I wasn't able to get out for the cemetery cleanup, but I understand that went really well. We had over 30 people come out for the town cleanup. And, it's just amazing what we can accomplish in 2 hours with that many people. We were able to get, literally every street and every park. It was just really great to see. I think the cycling club got part of the town on Newman Road the weekend before us. So it's great to have overlap. Nothing wrong with that, better than a gap. So thanks to everybody that turned out. It was great.
Excellent. In other news, I don't know if people saw the Clifton pub is closing temporarily due to an inability to find employees. And they'll be reopening sometime this month in a few weeks, but only on the weekends going forward. So the pub as we know it is no longer for the time being because they simply can't get enough employees to meet demand. So perhaps that will change with time, but I know we were surprised and we're going to see about maybe contributing our family members or something to help staff the pub because of its importance to the community. So we'll see what we can do. So it's funny, like go to the pub, but don't go too much because we don't want to overwhelm them. But it'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, look, the pub is a huge part of the history of the town, the general store, Judy McNamara and Sean and Kevin and Katie, on and on and on, a big part of who we are. So we certainly as a community want to do everything we can to support them and let them know how much we care and be there to help. It's an institution in the community. On to unfinished business. What's up with the sign, Reagan, at the Triangle? They redid the rocks. It looks great. Everybody loves it.
Yep. So landscaping is repaired. We've received the invoice for that. Maryland is taking action. The replacement Welcome to Clifton sign is being fabricated and should be up soon. And as the treasurer reported, we have collected the insurance claim from Geico. So everything is tracking there, and we should be back to normal here, I think, within a few weeks. So that's good news on that. I can give you an update on the historical marker. As reported previously, that is now on order. It goes out to a manufacturer in Ohio. We haven't heard from them or been billed by them, but we understand it takes several months to get in the queue for that. So we're anticipating late summer we'll have the replacement sign, which will be installed by DTI, Blair DeCidi's company. They were able to remove the old signpost. So if you walk by the caboose, you'll notice that is gone now. It's been cut down flush with the pavement and patched up. So we're just waiting for delivery of the sign. They'll install it. We did file a claim with VRSA, which is the Virginia municipal organization that that we participate in that offers some insurance. So with $1,000 deductible, we'll be able to cover the excess $1,000 plus for replacement of the sign, which is really good news. So we've already submitted and received the bill for the replacement of the sign and received $945 for that. And for the removal of the old signpost, I've also submitted that for reimbursement. And then we should be fully reimbursed for that, plus fully reimbursed for the cost to install the new sign when it arrives. So all good news there.
Wasn't there a depreciation on the sign or something like that?
That was at the Triangle. So we received
Triangle.
90% of the overall value of the sign, 100% of the landscaping.
Yep.
So overall, not a bad outcome.
No, we worked quickly with the Fairfax County Police to get information on the Triangle, and it's fair. Obviously, the driver is responsible for the damage to the sign, and we got the information, and it all got taken care of in an orderly, non-confrontational, non-controversial manner. But it ended up in the town, with that small exception for depreciation, being essentially held harmless on that, as it should be. But if not for the quick work that we did on that, we would be in a very, very different financial situation. So it was a good move to get that done.
Good. The only other item on a related note is that if you haven't noticed driving by Air Square, our flagpole is at something less than 90 degrees from the earth. So for whatever reason, our flagpole is starting to tilt, and I've asked DTI, Blair's company, to stop by and give us an estimate for what it would take to straighten that up. We're going to do that before we replant around that, because there'll be some excavation involved. So I'll report out next meeting on what comes of that, but we do need to straighten that up and get it looking good.
Okay. Moving on to the Clifton Ad Hoc Noise Committee. Steve, did you want to give an update?
Yeah, very quickly. I did send out invitations to everybody I could think of who was appropriate, which is the primary businesses in town relating to the issue and the surrounding residences. And virtually everybody has agreed to be on the committee. And I am now in the process of checking the legal status of the Fairfax County rules and how they enforce them. And then we will set up a meeting. But we haven't moved any farther than that at the moment.
Okay, I was happy to see how many people were more than willing to jump on the committee and contribute. That's a very good sign.
Yeah.
And both businesses and residents.
All the businesses said yes, and virtually all of the residents said yes.
Yeah, that's good. So obviously things are being done in the right way with that committee. Federal grant funding, I haven't heard anything else. Marilyn, anything to report on that? You're on mute. Marilyn, you were on mute, so we didn't hear you if you said anything on it. There may be no update, which is fine.
Yeah, I haven't heard any news, any response back.
Okay. All right. Well, one of the things I noted was the money was to be spent over some period of years. So it's not like the usual thing where there's this big rush to spend the money. So we can do it in an orderly manner, and we have guidelines on how we want to approach it. And as we get more information, we'll let the council know and go from there. Next item was rescheduling the public hearing. We already did that. On to new business. There was car theft in Clifton Heights. Anybody want to add color to that?
All I know is it was Amanda Jones and Reed Hall. It was a hot topic of discussion. at the planning commission meeting since they were attending for their application. And we were all, I think, and Amanda can jump in, but we were all kind of surprised to hear it was just not kids out, for a joyride, but she said they had surveillance video. And it was a professional group of thieves who were adults who came with getaway cars, who checked out all the cars in the neighborhood, apparently only made off with their Ford Explorer, but they specifically were targeting push button start cars, and they were able to activate the remote in the house. So this was kind of an interesting turn for crime, especially in Clifton. That's, other than stealing beer at the pub, which is usually teenagers, has been pretty crime free.
Mm-hmm. Very unusual. That's very unfortunate. So people be on notice and be on the lookout. I remember back in the old days, if Donna Netshirt saw someone she didn't know personally, she would call the police. So we're bigger than that now, but
We are.
still, it doesn't hurt that if you see something, say something. That's what they say on Amtrak. So, and maybe other places as well. And if you see a group dressed in black with hoods over their faces, driving getaway cars and casing vehicles, definitely say something. The police are very responsive, and it's worth saying something, especially now that we know this is in fact going on. So, and while it's very unfortunate that occurred, it's good that the Clifton Coconut Telegraph works quickly and works well, and the word gets around, because I heard about it right away as well, and was encouraged to make sure that we made sure the community knew about it. Finally, we have a town naturalist, and our town naturalist has requested funding to purchase a certain equipment. I've never been quite sure what town naturalist means, but I know he also does like animal rescues too. That's Mark Kozravi. He does all kinds of things for the community. He's a wonderful guy. He's a grade A guy, but he's also a big volunteer and one of the most humble individuals that I've ever met. Intelligent. He's a teacher. He's just a great guy. And in addition, he does animal rescues in addition to many other fascinating things, by the way. And he is looking for funding from the town for his community related work that he does that we have sponsored before. And this includes, bags for putting snakes in or things like that. 3 or 4 different types of things. And he has come with the audacious request for something, we'll have to cut it back probably, something on the order of $373. But it seems to me, well, that is a very large amount, that given what he's contributed to the town, that we would probably consider funding the entire $373.50 or whatever it is. Marilyn, do you know what the exact number is?
Yes, let me see if I can put my hand on it real quick. Yeah, 375.44. And
375.44.
And we do have a budget that was approved last year for $500 for this.
Wow. Okay. All right. So any discussion of that?
Yeah, I think he's probably the best buy that Clifton has.
We used to think Chuck Rusnick was that, but this perhaps even outpaces Chuck, that Mark is outrunning Chuck.
I know you said that you don't know what he does, but I'll tell you, when there's an animal and you don't know what to do with it, you call him Mark. That's what you do with it.
Any kind of animal. It's really,
particularly snakes and raccoons and all of that stuff. And he's great. I mean, I think we have to be pleased to be able to support him.
He's also a
Yep.
great resource on tree frogs.
Tree frogs. Yeah, we rescued a frog, actually, a tree frog. Free pet. And these pets are free. You only have to pay like $500 to get the habitat and all that other stuff for the pets. The pet itself is free. So yeah, Mark, I could go on at length about how spectacular he is, both as an individual, community volunteer, teacher. He's really great. And if you don't know him, find him and meet him. He's kind of shy. He's super humble. He's a very attractive guy. He does boxing. He does martial arts. He teaches. I don't know. He's like a Renaissance man. And we're really, really lucky to have people like that in our community. So it is with great pleasure that I make a motion to reimburse Mark Khosravi for the entire $375 and how many cents, Marilyn?
44.
44 cents that he's requested to purchase equipment with regard to his community animal rescue activity.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so 3 people seconded. You can put a tie in for that. That's good. All right, any further discussion? I'm going to do a roll call vote. Just be careful. Holloway, aye.
F. Ross, I.
McDonald, aye.
Oh, aye.
Line eye.
And screen eye.
All right, thank you. It's heartening. There have been many things here. The cleanup, the cemetery cleanup, the town cleanup, Mark Khosravi's work, the volunteers for the ad hoc noise committee, and many other things that we've talked about tonight that almost indicate, perhaps do indicate a resurgence of community spirit and well-being in the town. And maybe that's part of America as well. I don't know, but
I'll add that the Haunted Trail Committee is interested in hosting an event this year as well.
yes, sua sponte, as it were. The Haunted Trail Committee has come to Daryl and said, hey, we're thinking about, we'd like to do something. So we're really seeing the spirits of the community rise up. And think of what Kathy's doing in moving forward everything in her power, Motier and Clifton Cafe, to try and get them done right, but keep it moving forward, and keep prodding all of us with the electric prod so that we'll move forward as well. So really a lot of wonderful signs, a resurgence of springtime in Clifton. I think that's great. So good news to the extent that we're a bellwether for the region or larger. This is all a really good thing. So anything else for tonight?
Just one item, Bill. I had a request from the Parks Committee to add a additional trash bin at Harris Park. What we have there is becoming overwhelmed. I think it's a nominal cost, but I can report back next meeting on what the actual cost is. But we'll have a mess on our hands if we don't step it up for the summer, and then we would reduce that later on when it's not needed anymore.
And do we think that's like a rolling tote or like one of those fixed?
Yeah, one of the rolling totes, I believe.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we should just look at getting that done.
Yeah.
Okay.
The cost can't be that great.
No, it'll be incremental.
Yeah, get that done, and then if it's in a rolling tote, it can be positioned, and it'll be easier for Chuck as well. So
very good.
Will this be added to the American disposal?
It'll be
bill?
American,
Additional charge?
Yep.
Okay.
okay, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion to adjourn is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Thanks, everybody, and good night.
Yep, good night.
Thanks,
That's
everyone.
all.
See ya.
Bye.